Welcome to the second part of this tutorial series where we're making ping pong in Scratch. And for this video, we're going to be adding score into the game, so let's begin. To get started, we can start off by removing these two variables. We'll just hide them. And we're going to create two new variables. The first one called player1 score, and the second one being player2 score. And then we're going to go into our backdrop and select this line right here. Or actually, we'll just select the box instead and change it to vector. And we're going to make it not extremely black, but a bit of dark gray, and put that on the side right here. And maybe we can change it to be a bit darker. Yes, right there, brightness 5. Then we do the same right here. And there we go. So now if we full screen, it's just barely visible. So now that we have these two lines, we can convert it back to bitmap and go to the code. And the first thing we'll be working on is our ball. So we're going to say when I receive start game, and we're going to do this in a separate block. So we're going to say when I receive start game, then forever, then we're going to bring in two if statements. So bring in the first one and then the second one, and then go to operators and bring in two and operators, and then we'll bring in a greater than operator and a less than operator, and then go to motion. Now we're going to look if the x position is greater than 0, and then here we're going to look if x position is less than 0. And in the case where x position is greater than 0, that would mean the player 1 has scored a point, because it would have hit this side. And we're also going to look if we're touching. And then we're going to select the color here by making saturation full, and then change the brightness to 5. That's the color that we've made over here. If you chose something different, if you can't remember it, you can just use this color picking tool and then just go to the utmost left and try your best to select it. And there, I managed to select it, and then just duplicate that. And now we have the sensing if. Now we have the variable or the condition to see if we have scored a point. Now we're going to look. Now we're going to actually broadcast. I'm going to events and broadcast here. We're broadcasting player 1 scores. And after player 1 scores, we're going to broadcast reset as well, and wait 0.2 seconds so that the score isn't wrapped up too high. We can then duplicate this and change this to player 2 scores. Okay, after that we're going to then create two new sprites. So the first one is going to be called player 1 score, and we're going to use this text, change this to pixel, and make brightness full, and then just select number 1, grow this a bit and put it in the center, make it a bit smaller, and we're going to go to the code and disable the 2 player scores, and then we're going to decrease the size a little bit more, and this is around the size we want, and then just put this right here. Now what we're going to do is duplicate this a couple of times. So make this 1, make this 2, duplicate 3, 4 and 5, and then duplicate one more, so we have 0 as well. And then if you just tap on the text, you'll be able to rename it and then just center it back once you're done. So this, we're gonna make this 2 and then put it back to the center. We can make this 3, bring it back to the center. Make this 4, bring it back to the center, and make this 5 and bring that back to the center. And if we look, is level 1 is score 1 centered? And yes, it is. And we'll just move this here. Now we can go to our code, and we're going to go to events and say when flag is clicked, we want to hide it as well. And then we're going to say when I receive start game, then we're going to switch our costume to 0 because the score will be at 0, and show it. And then we're going to see when I receive player 1 scores, we're going to switch the costume to then bring a plus operator and go back to looks and say costume number +1. So we're going to increase the costume number, and we're also going to change the player 1 score by 1. And then we're going to, when flag is clicked, or rather we can say when I receive reset, we set our player 1 score to 0, and that should be fine. And we already reset with other sprites. When they start game, they reset instead, so we don't need to reset again here, so this should be fine. And then we're going to look if, and then bring in the equals operator, and we're looking if player 1 score equals to 5. Then we're going to broadcast player 1 wins. And then we can just duplicate this and change this all for player 2. So first change this to player 2 score. Then we're going to say when I receive player 2 scores, change player 2 score if player 2 score, and then broadcast player 2 wins, and set player 2 score to 0. And we can see our player 1 score is -115, so we want this to be +115, and make our y 125. So basically all you want to do is make the x the opposite and the y the same. So basically make this times it by -1. So now if we start off the game, and we can see that the scoring system works for our pads. Now we want to work on displaying who wins, and we'll do this by simply painting a new sprite, and we'll call this sprite win display, and convert this to bitmap, and we're just going to type player 1 wins with an exclamation mark, and then just increase the size and move this downwards, so right about here, and then just duplicate this. Now that this is duplicated, we can convert this to bitmap, select this one, delete it, and do the text. And what we're going to do is change the saturation, give it number 2, and bring it right here, and then just increase its size, and then just make it fit right about this. And then we can go back here and select this and just move this to the right. So now we have the player 1 wins and player 2 wins. Now we can go to our code, and we're going to say when flag is clicked, we want to hide it, and that was way too small. And then we're going to say when I receive player 1 wins and when I receive player 2 wins. And when we receive any of this, we're going to show, and then switch the costume. Our player 1 wins is costume 1, so we can make this costume 1 and duplicate this and make this costume 2. And after that, we're going to stop everything else, so stop all. And then let's rename this to win display and go to our player 1 score and player 2 score. Oh, okay, we have a bug here that says when I receive reset, but reset every time someone scores, so we do not want to put this here. Actually, instead we want to do this when I receive start game. We can do that here instead, and then just remove this reset, and then we can reset the score after somebody wins, so that actually makes more sense. So we'll set the player 1 score and player 2 score to 0 if a player wins. Okay, now let's see what happens if one player actually wins the game. So there we go, it says player 1 wins and ends the game. So that's all for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you don't miss the next video. In the next video, we'll be adding a main menu into the game, and that will be the final part of this tutorial series. So stay tuned for that. Goodbye.